Both Republican and Democratic heads of the Intelligence Committee in the Senate and in the House knew about it, approved it, have stood up and said it's right. You got to trust them. That's what government's about.
The public debate about the breadth of government surveillance and intrusions into personal privacy, one that President Obama apparently welcomes, is now in full swing on Capitol Hill.
The government spooks are drunk on power, and it's time for Congress to intervene. Government cannot use the Soviet-style dragnet approach, hoping to catch a big fish while also catching the endangered species of freedom.
Despite outrage from certain members of Congress, the vast majority seem to be content with the status quo. The New York Times reports that leaders in both parties are involved in a, quote, coordinated effort to squelch any legislative move to rein in the surveillance programs. And yesterday, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid rebuked those complaining about a lack of transparency.
If they don't come and take advantage of this, I can't say enough to say they shouldn't come and say, I wasn't aware of this, because they've had every opportunity to be aware of these programs.
One of the senators who did know what was happening and remained adamantly opposed to it is Democratic Senator Ron Wyden, who strongly disagreed with Reid's assessment and pointed to recent misleading statements made by administration officials, including Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, who maintained the government was not collecting Americans' data, or at least not wittingly.
It's not possible for the Congress to do the kind of vigorous oversight that the president spoke about if you can't get straight answers.
Late yesterday, the ACLU filed a lawsuit claiming the NSA's dragnet of American phone records violated the First and Fourth Amendments, asserting the collection, quote, gives the government a comprehensive record of our associations and public movements, revealing a wealth of detail about our familial, political, professional, religious, and intimate associations. And yet, after a briefing yesterday with intelligence officials, one House Democrat explained, kind of, the case for blanket surveillance.
One of the individuals said, why do you need all of those numbers in kind of a database? And they said, if you have a needle in a haystack, find a needle in a haystack, you need the haystack.
Right, because without the haystack, you would just have the needle. Anyway, in the White House briefing room, the doublespeak continued.
The Obama administration has demonstrated a strong commitment to protecting whistleblowers.
Presumably that commitment is independent of the fact that this administration has prosecuted more leakers/whistleblowers than all previous administrations combined. But hey, consistency can be tricky.
I don't have to listen to your phone calls to know what you're doing. If I know every single phone call you made, I'm able to determine every single person you talk to. I can get a pattern about your life that is very, very intrusive. If it's true that 200 million Americans' phone calls were monitored in terms of not listening to what they said, right, but to whom they spoke and who spoke to them, I don't know. That's the Congress should investigate them.
Joining us from Capitol Hill is Democratic Congressman from Minnesota, Keith Ellison. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Alex.
So this weekend you said the average member of Congress knows almost nothing about some of these secret NSA programs, including prison, and that you were not aware of the programs. You attended the briefing yesterday. Are you satisfied?
No. I think Congress needs to step forward boldly and to change the law. I mean, the 215 of the Patriot Act is you could drive a truck through it, you could drive an aircraft carrier through it. It allows the government to do almost anything. It needs to be significantly curtailed. We also need some insight as to how this FISA court is making decisions. What's the basis of their decision? This whole needle in the haystack thing, I find very disturbing and scary. The fact is, I worked in the criminal justice system in Minnesota for 16 years. And when the police had evidence of a crime or had reason to believe somebody was a criminal and might commit a crime, they dealt with those people. And even if they ran across a number that the criminal had called, everybody can understand why they would follow up with that person who they called. But what about people who have nothing to do with it? The fact is, the presumption should be the government leaves you alone unless you have done something to have them intrude in your life, not the reverse, which the whole haystack needle thing, I think, gets all wrong.
Congressman, there is a movement in the Senate. 8 senators, 6 Democratic, 2 Republican, are moving. They're asking the Attorney General to declassify significant opinions made by the FISA court that you spoke about, one that is thus far largely rubber-stamped government requests. Do you foresee a similar movement in the House?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, Congressman Conyers and Congressman Amash, a Republican and Democrat, are both moving forward on measures like this. I support them. I think they're absolutely right, and I'd like to see more transparency. Quite frankly, I am as interested in security of our country as anyone. I hate terrorism as much as anyone, but I also believe that we cannot turn our constitutional system on its head because of fear. We've got to remember that this country is the freest country in the world, and we have excellent law enforcement officials when they're following up on hard evidence and behavior of people who break the law or who threaten to or who engage in suspicious activity or who operate on behalf of foreign governments. The fact is we have the tools that we need in the Fourth Amendment already. We don't need to abandon our constitutional framework.
Congressman, the president seems to have an attitude of trust us, we got this. Have you been disappointed by that?
Well, you know what? I'm a supporter of the president, but let me just say that I really believe that the executive branch needs to be under the oversight and supervision and close scrutiny of the legislative branch. I don't care who's the president. I don't care if it's Obama or Bush or Nixon or Clinton or any of them. We've got to make sure we know what they're doing and we're asking them the right questions and we're getting honest answers. And I have reason to doubt that we've been getting honest answers based on some of the testimony I saw from Mr. Clapper. And so, you know, this is the relationship. It is within the legislative body that we debate issues and balance issues of national security and constitutional rights. It is within the executive branch to do all they can to protect the American public. That's why the framers had checks and balances. So I'm not here to cast aspersions on President Obama personally. I think Congress has to do its job, and I think we need some honest answers from the executive branch.